The Boeing 797, often referred to as the NMA, is a prospective new middle-of-the-market airliner that would help reshape, no doubt, the American plane maker's commercial aircraft offering. The proposed variant was long considered to be a game-changer. The 797, designed as a clean sheet to reshape how the middle-of-the-market sector, often also referred to as the MOM, would move in future decades. Furthermore, the aircraft would have likely answered airlines' sector-specific requirements that would help aid them with growth and also replacement efforts. So, would the prospective 797 have been able to fill the gap left by the iconic but also outgoing 757? What is the purpose of this aircraft? Why wasn't it launched? And what's next? The 797 drew a lot of attention to Boeing throughout the 2010s. It was arguably one of the biggest talking points for the future of the plane maker. It really came at a critical point as they looked to proceed potentially with a new plane. If released, the aircraft would have slotted into the 737 MAX and 787 gap, really perfecting that bridge between the popular narrow-body and the popular wide-body series. While details were always going to be scarce, considering the aircraft was never formally launched, analysts predicted that it would be able to seat a pretty modest capacity and slot again between the two aforementioned variants, finding that sweet spot. Range capabilities could extend from 4,500 up to 5,000 nautical miles. In essence, the 797 would have extended older outgoing aircraft types by implementing next-generation technologies. The hope was the plane would have also been able to meet growing demand across many different route segments, so therefore offering that flexibility that you hear airlines desire so much lately. The 797, importantly, would have also been a clean sheet, at the same time, no doubt incorporating technologies seen on other aircraft, with updated engines, materials, avionics, and so much more, to provide the best possible platform for airlines to go on and operate for the long term. While not launched, the aircraft definitely attracted significant interest. Several companies from Delta to major leasing establishments made their calls for such an aircraft very public, but ultimately their calls would go unanswered. Why did talks though of this plane emerge in the first place? Well, the 757 has been a mainstay since its introduction several decades ago, proving itself to really be that all-important workhorse, and significantly improving the middle-of-the-market sector. However, Boeing ceased production of the 757 back in 2004. This was a decision that was largely spurred on by declining orders and the realization that the program was, yes, beginning to end. As a result, there were visible gaps as existing units began to show signs of age, and we came to that knowledge that there wouldn't be a successor offered. Throughout the latter stages of the 2010s and even in the midway point, that gap certainly became a focal point for industry analysts and also airlines. The question remained, how on earth were Boeing going to replace the 757 in an adequate manner, and was it really going to be deemed as enough? The options available were the larger 787 and narrow bodies such as the A321neo over at competitor Airbus, even the emerging 737-10. However, the consensus was that these aforementioned planes still weren't the optimal replacement, leading to many 757 customers making their cases known for replacement. Thanks to Boeing's misfortunes in recent years, Airbus has actually been able to develop the A321neo further through the launch of the XLR, which has looked to target some of those 757 routes I speak of. However, even with that being said, it is still widely not considered the perfect replacement. For most, but not all. The growing pressure from airlines and Airbus's aggressive moves prompted the exploration of that prospective NMA I speak of. However, it wouldn't be easy. Feasibility studies must be conducted firstly to really understand if enough demand would be present for a prospective program to move ahead, as this requires substantial investment to facilitate the launch of a said new commercial airliner. In the 2010s, more airlines were looking to expand their global route network. Instead of focusing strictly on hubs, they wanted to fly between unserved city pairings with a modest, flexible aircraft type. Airbus saw this demand early and aggressively marketed the A321XLR, which would launch in 2019, as an ultra-long-range variant of its A321neo base model. The launch was met with hundreds of orders in the first week, and the plane offered fantastic range alongside passenger capability capabilities while ensuring that airlines would be able to keep a certain degree of commonality. While not marketed as the 757 replacement, the A321XLR with its advancements certainly became a popular choice for airlines seeking to replace aging 757s. Icelandair, revamping its own business model through fleet, has selected the A321LRs and XLRs to replace those outgoing 757s. This market remains lucrative because it perfectly combines regional dominance and long-haul growth, which can be very enticing for a wide array of established and also emerging airlines. The development of the 757 and a prospective replacement, even seen through Airbus narrow-bodies, has meant airlines haven't had to use wide-bodies for smaller international markets. Nowadays, flexibility is king, and airlines love what flexible aircraft can do for their day-to-day flying, including the ability to very easily swap planes over between markets to optimize their route network. Is this 797 a true 757 replacement? Well, if you're taking a look at the specifications that were never confirmed, it could definitely slot into that 757 void. Furthermore, with other technological advancements, its cost savings would have definitely been present, making it a favourable option for airlines, with some of your biggest in the world already expressing their desires for such a plane in the past. Unlike repurposed narrow-bodies or even downsized wide-bodies, the 797 was certainly envisaged as a purpose-built, middle-of-the-market plane, and again, I'll reiterate, it was going to be a clean sheet. The aircraft would have easily provided range to handle those transatlantic flights from the east coast of the United States deep into Europe, while also having the means to fly into more challenging locations or even domestic locations that were in high demand. However, much of the 797's talk came at a challenging time for Boeing, and in the end, the focus on a new commercial airliner wasn't necessarily at the forefront. But why? Well, several factors contributed to Boeing's decision not to proceed with the 797 project, which again had so much promise and was such a huge talking point. First, there was the 737 MAX crisis, which unfolded in 2018 and 2019. Of course, it would continue onwards from here, but our major incidents occurred within a 6-month span. These crashes were absolutely devastating for all involved, and their ramifications certainly consumed much of Boeing's resources and directed attention away from new endeavours. While it is impossible to say if the disaster that had plagued Boeing for the past 7 years had not occurred, would the plane have gone ahead? There were still other complications. Remember, at the beginning of 2020, amid quality challenges to the MAX and other aircraft, travel demand became non-existent due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. Many airlines postponed aircraft orders and focused on attempting to survive, rather than, say, an order. And when factoring in Boeing's situation, it seemed rather complicated to launch a new plane. Today, airlines seeking to replace the 757 have many options. For some, not all perfect, but the realization has been made that Boeing will not be progressing with a new plane in the short term. In fact, they've stated that their finances are far from optimal. Launching a new commercial airplane right now is completely out of the question, even if demand was present. The development of the A321XLR has allowed it to really come in as the closest 757 successor, but its capabilities are still not what some airlines would be ideally wanting without having to make some form of a compromise. But that's things we have to do in day-to-day life. Sometimes you have to make that compromise if the perfect solution is not out there. So for Boeing, while work will continue to study what will be next for them, which will likely need to be a clean sheet, this will be some time away. They offer the 737-10, an uncertified and largest member of the MAX series, and the 787-8. These are your closest offerings for the plane maker to combat desires for a 757. Complications have highlighted that Boeing won't offer us a replacement for some time, and like I said, many have had to accept this. Obviously, things could be very different, and at a point where Boeing looks to finally stabilize, they will jump back into this market, but for now, and understandably, their priorities lie elsewhere. Was cancelling the 797 the right decision? And really, how do you feel it would have stacked up against the 757? Would it have been that perfect replacement that so many airlines were after? You can let me know down below in the comments. Thanks a bunch for your support here on the channel. Take care, do be safe. I'll see you in a couple of days for your latest industry analysis. And we'll fly.